obviously, if there were, it's kind of natural.
Yeah, I mean, definitely some nerves, of day one in the new building, new system, getting out there. I'm glad, we were able to do a walkthrough and kind of get those nerves out and really take what you learn in the film room out to the field. That really helps everything click, but a little bit of nerves, but it was fun nerves. It was good nerves.
What are your first impressions of Stout now that you're in the building with them and you get to see it up close?
Yeah, he's the man. He's been great so far, really teaching us a lot. He's really trying to push us in the film room, make sure we're getting caught up to speed. But no, he's been great. He wants the best for us. He's going to coach us really hard because he wants us to be great players. So I've loved working with him so far, and I'm really looking forward to continuing it.
He was listed you as a center slash guard. He had plans to move to guard. What's your experience?
Yeah, played some guard in high school. When I got to BC, I had to learn how to play center. So I played center all the way through BC. So, I pride myself on doing a lot of things, but just doing whatever the coaches asked me to do and doing it at the highest level possible. So just looking forward to that.
Howie Roseman was talking the other day about how, like, some people take for granted the snap of a center, which is almost always out of a shotgun now. How difficult was that to learn, and did you struggle with it at first?
Yeah, definitely doesn't. It doesn't come natural, You're pulling the ball in between your legs and having to run sideways, depending on the play, but you have to do a lot of different things. And not only is the snap hard, but it can be challenging mentally as a young center trying to learn the position. So there's a lot of things that go into it. But yeah, I would say like when you first get started going at center, it's not as easy as it looks at first. So just like anything with 1,000 repetitions, you start to get it down and you start to get a lot more comfortable with it. It just takes time.
Have you gotten a chance to talk to either Cam Jurgens or Jason Kelce yet?
I have. I talked to Cam this morning, just introduced myself, said hi to him, and, just small talk, but nothing too crazy yet.
You were 7 when your dad stopped playing. What's like growing up in there?
It was cool. It was really special. I kind of learned from a young age what it's like to play in the NFL. Obviously not my own perspective. I was 7, but learning from my dad and seeing how he was approaching his everyday life, what it takes to be a pro. I was able to learn that from a young age, and, growing up, you always want to be like your dad, right? So seeing that at a young age, it was really special, and that was kind of where my dreams started. I still remember a lot of the days when I was 7. So looking back, standing at FedEx Field, on the sideline before a game, it was special. So, yeah, I was very blessed to be in that position from a young age.
What's the biggest lesson that he's taught you about being a pro that will help you go forward?
I'd say take care of your body. He played for, I think it was 13, maybe 12 seasons, but, that doesn't happen on accident. He was a pro taking care of his body, making sure he was ready to go every Sunday and for every practice. So just staying on top of that.
How much responsibility did you have at BC in setting protections and making line calls?
Yeah, I did everything at BC from the IDs and making the line calls. And, luckily I've been coached by a lot of great offensive line coaches and Coach O'Brien and Coach Halfley. So, they've really got me right and got me going on that and put me in a good spot.
Those memories on the sideline, and imagine how massive everything might have seemed.
Yeah.
To go into it gradually from, small, middle school, whatever up, what perspective have you from the beginning of the bottom-up process?
Yeah, I mean, I just really fell in love with the game from that point. So, I haven't really even thought, like, obviously, big picture, you think about it, but I was more so just in love with playing football. And that's really where it came from. So I was never really too focused on the big picture of going back in that big stadium. At least then I was just, I loved playing tight end. I loved playing defensive end, getting a sack. It was just those moments that, built me up to where I am now.
The fact that they list you when they drafted you as guard center or center guard, does that tell you maybe there's some reps at guard in your future? And are you looking forward to that if it happens?
Definitely. You got to be able to do a bunch of different things. You got to add value to the team. So the more you can do, the better. So that's all I'm really hoping to do, is add value to this team this year, and, be able to contribute to a winning team. So whatever the coaches ask me to do, I'm going to do at the highest level possible.
As someone coming up as a center, how familiar were you with the center tradition here with, Kelce during his time, and obviously Cam last year.
Extremely familiar. You know, I grew up that was my favorite tape to watch, favorite center to watch. You know, growing up was Jason Kelce. So you know, I'm very familiar. He did amazing, incredible things here. So you know, it's very special building, very special place to play center. So I take that with a lot of honor.
What did you like specifically that he did?
I love the way he pulled. You know, got out in space and you know really attacked the second level. He got on the second level really fast and really stressed the linebackers. So I thought that was really good, and that really made the run game go. So that was a really special thing that he did.
Did that?
I'm getting there. Yeah.
If they were to move you to guard, what do you think the challenges are of going back to that position after not playing since high school?
Yeah. You know, just like I said with playing center, when you're learning to play center, it takes thousands of repetitions. So, you know, switching between center to guard to center, you know, you just have to rep it like crazy. And you got to be a little weird about it, and you got to really make sure you're staying on top of it and doing extra work and, you know, learning from the older guys that have experience doing that stuff. So really just trying to utilize all your resources you have, leaning on people that can give you advice, and then just staying on top of your own stuff and making sure you're putting in the work.
How much does playing center, do you think, help in that versatility? In other words, you're talking about all your knowledge of ID protections and things like that. How much does that help to know that if you're moving out to guard?
Yeah, it definitely helps, but it's a little bit of a different world. You know, center, you've got a lot of help, a lot of plays. Guard, a lot of times you don't have help. So it definitely helps because you know all the intricacies of the offense and like how things are supposed to be run and where the ball is, how many steps the quarterback's taking. Like I feel like at center you really take pride in that versus, you know, potentially if you're at other positions, you don't necessarily need to know all of that. So I think that would definitely help me moving out to guard, just kind of being really dialed in on the offense. But yeah, definitely.
I imagine you're not the only young center who has taken parts of Jason Kelce's game and tried to emulate it. I guess just in general, how influential do you think he is in the center position?
I mean, in my lifetime, probably the most influential center there's been playing in the National Football League. What he did in Philly was incredible. Just such a great talent and such a great guy. So just watching him on film and watch him in his press conferences, you know, he's just a stand-up guy. So he's definitely changed the game. Thank you, guys.